Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Heavenly Hills Homestead. We appreciate you guys coming in with us this evening. We have Marko from AgroThrive. And guys, I just going to come straight out. This is some good stuff. And Marko, thank you for joining us this evening.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you here. Really wanted to get you on because AgroThrive, to me, ever since I started using it last year, has become a staple in what we use here to grow not just our giant fruit and vegetables, but also to grow our food that we actually want to consume. And so, can you give us a little bit of information about as far like how the company began and like its small beginnings and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So the company started back in 2006 by my father, whose background is in he has a bachelor's in food science and a master's in applied microbiology. And he spent most of his professional career fermenting and digesting everything that's fermentable and digestible in the food industry, alcoholic beverages, yogurts, etc. And so he realized that there was a problem with food waste. A lot of nutritious materials coming from food processing operations, such as fish filleting facilities. You got also tons of meat waste from food processors. When you think about it, when you think about food waste, usually people think of just like the scraps that go off of your plate into the garbage can. We're thinking about that 60% of the animal that's raised for human consumption that is inedible waste. What happens to that stuff? So essentially, he thought he created this technology called the progressive digestion process to safely convert that waste and turn it into an excellent pre-digested organic fertilizer. And so that's pretty much how the company started. We've been in the bulk agriculture business since 2006, primarily selling in truckload and rail car quantities to farmers who are supplying, the grocery stores with the organic produce that you'll find in the grocery store. So yeah, a couple of years ago, we kind of realized that when you look into the gardening aisle at your local gardening store, there's not really any, organic fertilizers on there that are actually, used by professional farmers at
Right.
scale. And so we decided, and, these are very, farmer grade, compliant for leafy greens applications and all that kind of stuff, very rigorous food safety testing and all that kind of stuff. So we decided to offer some of our best-selling products in the bulk space into retail products. And as a grow and a bloom, we have a general purpose and a fruit and flower. So that gardeners seem to be loving it. So we're really happy about that.
Right. And it does. It works really, really well. Last year, used it and, both the general purpose and the fruit and flower. And I was really surprised at some of the things that I had seen. Like I had told you previously, I noticed that when I would put it in my teas, that it was making my biology a little bit faster growing, it seemed. And they always preach, oh, you got to have a brew of 24 hours. Well, when I would put AgroThrive in it, my brew time was less and I had more. And if I let it go to 24 hours, I started seeing a die off. And I think the reasoning for that was because there was so much biology in there that it started to eat all the food and there wasn't nothing left there. So it started to die away. I know we talked briefly about this whenever we had talked last month. Can you kind of give people a little bit insight as to why I seen those jumps in biology and stuff? Because I know that we had touched on it, and I don't want to say how you said it whenever we had talked. So I want to give you the reins and let you kind of describe what it was going on there.
Yeah, well, it all starts with this progressive digestion process that I talked about, which is a natural microbial and enzymatic digestion. We harness the inoculum from the spoilage organisms. So say your fish guts, every living organism has enough microbes in its gut to digest itself many times over. And that really only happens in like a, composting type of process, or eventually over a long period of time, that stuff is going to get digested. So the progressive digestion process is really what takes those raw materials, and it's fish and then corn steep liquor, which is a good kind of sugar source for those microbes to continue their digestion. So as one microbial species goes to, say, digest the cartilage, that one eventually dies out and provides the food for the next microbial species to digest the, bones and heads and skins. I mean, everything in there.
Right.
And so the temperatures, the microbes take our temperatures up in our vessels all the way up to about 159 degrees Fahrenheit, which kind of kills all the pathogens, but still leaves the beneficial microbes viable. So this is what is really kind of the key difference. Is your average organic fertilizer is simply, whether it's a liquid or granular, it's simply a blend of organic materials. And so you need, once you put that blend of organic materials into the soil, it's relying on soil microbes to break that stuff down to convert it into a fertilizer where plants can take it up. So that's why you see results. It takes a long time to see results with organics, whereas if you throw on your chemicals, that's in a simple molecular structure, your plants can get them right away. So the AgroThrive end product is pre-digested. So the nutrients are in a much more immediately available form. There's nutrients in various stages of digestion, but also those microbes that finish our digestion go in with the final product. So those microbes will go, say if it goes into the soil, you'll feed the indigenous microflora in the soil to continue the digestion of whatever else it needs to digest in the soil. It'll help with plant protection from kind of building up its immunity to fight off stressors such as pathogens and diseases and stuff like that. But as far as the compost tea, I would assume that it's just because it's a very nutritious, readily available source of nutrients, and also because AgroThrive is very microbially active.
Right.
The high thermophiles, that are plant and soil beneficial, they actually survive the temperatures that pathogens cannot live at, and so that's kind of where we found our happy medium, to work well.
Awesome. That's awesome. So I got a couple questions for you, and you may or may not be able to answer this. I know it's kind of just off the riff real quick, but I was thinking, I use extreme gardening products, so Azos, which is beneficial bacteria, Mycos, which is beneficial, Mycorrhiza, which is fungi, and then lactobacillus, lots and lots of different types of lactobacillus. So since this AgroThrive is going into the soil and helping the microbiology that's already in the soil, which would be my lactobacillus, my fungi, and my bacteria coming in those three forms that I just. Have you guys seen any do you know the workings of that of AgroThrive between any of those three, like whether it's lactobacillus or Mycos or Azos?
Yeah, no, I'm not really sure how they would react together, because at the end of the day, the microbes, they will kind of compete for the territory there. So, whichever ones dominate will usually be in the case of AgroThrive, the dominating species at the end of our digestion when we cut it off is a Pseudomonas.
Okay.
It has a couple genetic mutations on there that are unique to our process, that we think are what is able to make it withstand the heat of 159 degrees Fahrenheit. But when it comes to at the end of the roll, the microbes kind of roll. I mean, they play a multitude of roles, but in nutrient breakdown, microbes will excrete any enzyme necessary to digest whatever it's in its vicinity. So,
Right.
Trying to provide the soil with as much of that biology and as diverse of a set of biology to try to kind of break as much of that down, seems to be what's working for a lot of growers. And that's why, the conventional growers, they need to, every time you harvest a crop, you're taking that organic matter out of the soil. So they're trying to figure out ways of trying to bring that back in there. So, you can do compost, which has, plenty of good biological activity in there. You could do, other organic fertilizers and, other biostimulants and microbes like the ones that you mentioned.
Right. Now I know a lot of these people who are either watching or going to watch here after a while, they use things like blood meal, bone meal, such things as those that are organics. Will AgroThrive help break those down a little faster? Because I know what they're using them for is to amend their soils.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go get a soil test and they'll say, okay, well, we need nitrogen, so we put blood meal down. We need, phosphorus, so we put bone meal down, etc. Will the AgroThrive help break those down a little bit faster?
Yeah, so those are really great sources of organic nutrients. But yeah, you're right. Like they're not digested. So they, at some point, they need to be digested by either what's in the soil or whatever else you add on top of it that has some microbes in it. And so if you wanted to kind of get a quicker release or quicker access of those nutrients to the plant, then AgroThrive would be a pretty good one to apply on top of it. It's also applied on top of pellets quite often because chicken pellets, they're a pretty good source of NPK, are pretty cheap, but it's not very accessible to the plant. So that's also another, any type of grain, even with compost. I mean, this will accelerate the compost. It'll kind of add a quick shot of nutrients to the plants while you're adding it. So awesome. Any organic material, this stuff has the microbes in it to really try to enhance, whatever you already have in there.
Right. Now, are you allowed to tell how many microbes are in there?
No. So that's kind of the trouble with it is, if I was to tell you that we don't have any microbes in it, I'd be lying, because it's a microbial process. Right. For us to claim any microbial claims on our label, we would have to be able to guarantee specific counts. And because we don't actually add any outside microbes or enzymes in our products, that's pretty difficult to do. So we've just, from our in-house tests, we've just kind of seen the different, type of different species dominate at various stages of the digestion. And at the one that we kill it off, it's mainly Pseudomonas. But there's also, it's a consortium of microbes that's digesting these materials. So there's definitely other ones in there. We haven't gotten that deep into it, unfortunately, but really curious. I mean, we're always learning new stuff from distributors, from some of the universities that are playing around with our products, and it's pretty exciting.
And that kind of leads on to the next question I wanted to have. What are some of the benefits that you guys are hearing about, of people using AgroThrive versus other things?
Yeah, so it's a good general purpose kind of base fertilizer that a lot of the growers are using, as far as it has a well-balanced array of macronutrients, micronutrients, but also, like we mentioned, those beneficial microbes to really help protect the plants inside outside. So nutrient, it will give the plants nutrients quicker. It will give it a full spectrum of nutrients, including micronutrients and those minerals. And also the product has about 2.5% humic acids in it naturally. And so also, and then the microbes will go and help with, the first thing it does is it really stimulates root growth and root hair growth. So the more surface area you have on your roots and your root hairs, the more surface area there is to absorb nutrients and water. So that's the first thing, is it really ignites that root growth, which establishes, for a better chance for the plant to survive, right, and grow well. And then it's used throughout the season a little bit, just to kind of keep it going, keep it pushing. A lot of growers use it standalone. Some other people, mix in some other products if their soil is deficient in something. And then towards the end of it, you can apply the fertilizer if it's a fruit and flower bearing plant. It has the nutrients needed for that stage. And so essentially, just better yields, better tasting and looking fruits and veggies, and you're improving your soil and your environment around the plant along the way.
Right. And definitely much bigger. I did notice that. Yeah. I grew a lot bigger stuff with it. So there's one other thing I wanted to kind of talk about just real fast, and then I got some other questions. But while I'm reading through my list here for the questions, you guys do a buy one, give one kind of deal. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Can you kind of tell everybody what that's about and why y'all do that?
Yeah, so every once in a while we'll do a get one, give one campaign, usually around some sort of holiday like Earth Day, or this last one that we did was during National Ag Week. And so these get one, give one campaigns are pretty much where we partner with a nonprofit organization that has something to do with encouraging others to get into organic, to learn about how to grow organically, to start farming. So from our retail community, our gardening community, we like to showcase kind of what's going on in the ag scene. we've been at the front lines of organic agriculture for a while. I mean, every year, I'll go to Washington, D.C. with the Organic Trade Association and lobby for the organic industry. And so we're very serious about trying to make organic a bigger impact on the world, on the country at least, because, organic is only less than 1% of all arable land in the U.S. Although organic food sales are doing pretty well, they're still just a fraction of all food sales. And so we have a long way to go. So this last one we did was with the CCOF Foundation, and they have a grant program called the Organic Transitions Program. So they try to support organic growers through their transition, because it's a 3-year transition. They have to, face a lot of extra costs. They pretty much have to grow their produce in organic practices, but they don't have the luxury of having the organic seal on it, so they have to sell it for conventional prices. So this Get One Give One program was for every 1 gallon purchase on AgroThrive.com. We donated a gallon in bulk to these growers to kind of just help them out a little bit with their organic organic farming journey. And so this last one, we raised about 445 gallons. So it went really
that's really good,
well, I thought. And we've done other programs in the past with groups such as ALBA, like the Agricultural Land-Based Learning Program. There's the Homeless Garden Project in Santa Cruz, which is a nonprofit, getting homeless people into organic growing and stuff like that. So we did World Children's Day with the Farm Discovery Children's Farm, and so every once in a while, those are the types of promotions we like to do. Kind of a get one, give one, educate the gardening community about stuff that's going on in the farming community, and have the farming community kind of get involved with the gardening community a little bit. So that's been kind of fun.
Absolutely. And I liked it. I liked it whenever me and you had talked about it, that it sounded like a great company to be a part of, because, you guys aren't huge. You guys are a family owned company. You're relatively small compared to a lot of fertilizer companies. And yet you guys are giving back in a really big way compared to a lot of these companies who let's just face it, they don't do it. Right. So I really like that. I like a company who likes to give back.
It's all thanks to our, AgroThrive gardening community. And so
absolutely,
we've been really appreciative that those messages are resonating with them for sure.
And they should, because that's what it's about. Gardening, you learn and then you give it to the next generation or whoever, right? If you know how, you give that knowledge to your neighbors or whoever comes along. So I got a question, because I know a lot of people, you mentioned corn steep liquor. People are going to say, well, what's corn steep liquor? Could you kind of elaborate a little bit on what corn steep liquor is and why it's beneficial to your product and beneficial to them, really?
Yeah, corn steep liquor is a byproduct of the cornstarch refining process. It has NPK. It's has good sugars. It's a good sugar source for the microbes to do their digestion, but it's usually used for animal feed. So it's pretty nutritious. Our founder found that back in 2000, kind of around 2006 when the company started, and was the first one to use it in organic fertilizers. And then it's since then become a pretty popular amendment. Yeah, so if you're you could use it alone, but it's going to take a long time for the nutrients to be digested, and we've just seen that with the combination of the microbes that come from the fish guts through that fermentation process with the corn steep liquor. It's a good combo. So right. That's kind of our experience. That's our experience with it. Yeah.
So I guess technically I could get a little extra corn steep liquor and put in my compost teas when I'm brewing, and it would just feed the microbes a little bit longer. Right.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that's a big part of why the AgroThrive worked in there, because I don't know if it's the nutrient, is it the bugs or the brew, is it the nutrients or is it the microbes?
Right. I think it's the microbes, because it's pretty active, because I'm dumping in AgroThrive, I'm dumping in a little bit of Versity, a little bit of Azos, a little bit of Mycos, and all these different compost teas, right, that are like pre-brewed. Well, not pre-brewed, they are pre-packaged. that you just throw in a tote, and then they got their own activators and stuff. Malibu Biodynamics is one of them. The other one is the one from Gardening, and like I was saying, oh, people were asking, what are you brewing that for? I'm like, 10 to 12 hours. Oh, that's not nearly long enough. That's only half the life. And I'm like, if I go 18 to 24, stuff starts dying off. And I couldn't figure out why, you know what I mean? And then somebody was like, well, what else you putting in there? What do you mean? What else am I putting? I don't need anything else. What are you feeding them? You got to feed them. Oh, like I was just like, I knew that, but it didn't register to me, right? Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I am supposed to feed him. So there goes molasses, right? A little bit of that to try. But, by the time that they said that, growing season was, at the end, it was in September. So now I was like, well, that right there is why I couldn't. But nevertheless, I still had an absurd amount of biological, microbes within there, like I could pull it out 10 to 12 hours. And I mean, there would be, you put it underneath a slide on a glass and see all this light nuts, right? And I'm like, good enough to me to put out there on the garden. It's bouncing life. So, I did that. But this year I wanted to see if I couldn't extend that to a full 18 to 24 hours and maybe even make more, life in there and then put it out, so hopefully, if I can get some corn steep liquor or, start using molasses on there or something and get them feeding and stuff. But I think that's what happened. I think they were just multiplying so fast that they started to die off because there was nothing in there to keep them alive, no food. So,
wow.
Or at least that's suggested to me after I showed what I had showed to the guy. So he was like, yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Well, yeah, I'd be curious to hear how it goes next time. Let me know.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to let you know. You and Aero Mixer are you guys are going to get a lot of feedback this year from compost tea stuff. So what's the NPKs of both of the products, the general purpose and the fruit and flower?
Yeah, the general purpose is a 332. So that's the general purpose, kind of just for everything that grows. It's good for your starters, good for your leafy greens. And then the fruit and flower 335 is just this kind of the same thing, just enhanced with a little bit of potassium for to support those fruit and flowering stages. But apparently it could be used for seedlings too. I mean, it was actually just 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTuber Growfully with Jenna. She just posted a video testing the 10 best seedling fertilizers.
Really?
And 10 most popular seedling fertilizers. And AgroThrive Fruit and Flower, which wasn't really even meant for seedlings, actually came up on top by a long shot. So that was cool. It's a good video. It's the top 10 fertilizers for seedlings. And so so the idea is we got the grow, we got the bloom, and so they provide just your macronutrients, micronutrients, and all the beneficial microbes for really any plant to thrive. With the exception of some deficiencies, if somebody has whatever calcium, magnesium, or whatever they're growing. Right.
Foliar versus drenching with AgroThrive. What does it matter, do you think, or?
It kind of comes down to preference. So, foliar is obviously, it's going to give the plants a pretty quick shot of nutrients, but I always try to recommend applying to the soil because you want to get those, the microbes as close to the rhizosphere where all plant microbe interaction takes place. So as close as to the roots, the closer to the roots, the better.
Right. And I would agree. Because that was, that's another reason why I used it in my compost teas. Well, let me rephrase this. I used one in the compost tea and the other one I would drench. Okay. So just so everybody knows, you guys have been watching, you guys will know, you watched last year's videos, that I put the general purpose in the compost teas, and then the flower was the one that we put on the plant themselves. So, but I it would matter as much because they're very close in what they are. Outside of having the more potassium in the fruit and flower, they're really close. Now, I am very curious about that though, because I always have a problem with my seedlings. And I think Travis uses Travis at Lazy Dog. I think he uses y'all's products on his seedlings. And that's what kind of prompted me this year to go ahead, and I'm going to try it out because it looked like it was mild. And now that you said that, Jenna over there has done it and had no issues at all, I'm definitely going to do it because I always have that problem with fertilizing my seedlings. It's like get a shot of something, but what do you give them? Because it seems like everything's kind of like peppers. Pepper take it, but tomatoes won't, right? Or vice versa.
Yeah.
But I see Travis down there. He puts it on everything. It don't matter if it's cabbages or tomatoes or peppers or whatever. He puts them all on at the same rate, and everything withstands it just fine. So I was already thinking about using that for my seedlings, and now I'm definitely going to because she had done that video. So it is very, very good. Your plant. Let me put it this way: your seedlings can tolerate it because it's not a harsh stout fertilizer, right? It's very well balanced and just mild, and they seem to like it. So the other thing,
Travis actually uses the general purpose for his seedlings. So,
does he?
Preference, yeah.
See, it is really just a preference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess what I'll have to do now, since there's nothing there on it, I guess I'm going to have to do a general purpose and a fruit and flower comparison between two different. That way we have all bases covered. We got Travis. We got Travis with the general purpose. We got Jenna with the fruit and flower, and Ryan's just going to go straight down the middle and use it on both. So yeah,
let's go down. Let's see who comes on top for seedlings.
Absolutely. Let's do it. So another question here is, how much do you think, just on what I don't want to guesstimate this because I'm not exactly sure how much it would take, but say that there's a grower out here who has 1,000 square foot. All right. Mm-hmm. He's got 1,000 square foot patch. How much of either or fertilizer would he need for the season on 1,000 square foot patch?
Let's see. Well, our general recommendation is about 2 ounces of fertilizer concentrate per gallon of water for starter plants. If you're going to fertilize about once a week or so, about 2 ounces. If it's a mature plant, if you're fertilizing every week or two, we recommend about 4 ounces per gallon. Now that gallon will need to be saturated on the soil enough to the point where it can get to the plant roots. So I guess it depends on what you're growing in that 1,000 square feet and how far everything is apart. But you just want to drench the soil. So about 2 to 4 ounces per gallon of water, and enough to drench the soil around the base of the plant will cover, I would say, maybe about 35 square feet, maybe more.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd use about that's about 28 applications at 35 times 4 ounces is 114 ounces. So that's about it's about a gallon.
Okay, cool. Because
very rough,
right?
Paper napkin calculations.
I totally get it. But I just wanted to get like a ballpark estimate for some of these guys because they're growing pumpkin plants that are anywhere between 500 square foot and 1,000 square foot plant, right? Just one plant that's 1,000 square foot. And here's the problem with a lot of growers. They for a long time now, it's been said in the community, you got to spend $1,000 to grow 1,000 pounds. All right. So for every 1,000-pound pumpkin you grow, you have to spend $1,000 on fertilizer. All right. And so part of what I try to do here is give guys an estimate on roughly what it would cost them to grow 1,000-pound pumpkin. Okay. Because I've never grown much over 1,000. You know what I mean? I've grown 1,000 plus, but not much over that. And so I try to give them that rough estimate. That way they know that you don't have to spend $1,000 to grow 1,000-pound pumpkin. You just got to get the right products, right? And that have the right combination and that are actually working, not stuff that is snake oil or maybe, takes a long time to activate within the soil or whatever. And so that's why I was asking, because I always like to give guys, the best products as possible. And you guys, phenomenal product over there. I've seen a lot of difference in my plants. My viewers seen tons of difference in my plants. I mean, you can grow a bean that's 20 some inches long, a green bean that's 20, like, I don't even remember, it's 21 or 22 inches, whatever it was. That's pretty big, and I grew it in some junky, $1.25 a bag soil. Okay. And so I know, right. Yeah. I know the soil had nothing to do with it. Right.
Yeah.
So Smart Pots, I'll tell you the story, because I haven't told you this yet. Smart Pots sent me, whenever they became a sponsor of mine, like midway through the season last year. Right. I think it was like July, whenever Eric come on the show. And right after that, he was like, we really like what you're doing over there. We want to set you up with a lot of stuff. You want to do it? I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I love the stuff. So they sent me out one raised bed. Now these are fabric pots, right? But it was a raised bed and two of these like 45-gallon containers. And I'm like, okay, my compost dude is out of compost right now. Where am I going to find soil to fill these up at? Right. So I start looking. Lowe's, $1.25 a bag. And I'm like, there you go. I go over there and load up. I took a whole pallet. Right. And I come home. I didn't even really bother to look at anything. I probably should have. I opened the bag up and start dumping it. And I'm like, oh my God, I have made a mistake. This is horrible. It looked like mulch. And still, it still looks like mulch. Okay. Like there's some dirt particles in it, but it looks like a lot of mulch in there. All right. And I'm like, what? Oh God, this is horrible. I was like, nothing's going to grow in this. This is going to be bad. So I planted those green beans in there. I planted some other things in there. I used AgroThrive compost, with the compost tea in there. And then I started hitting them with that fruit and flower. And like I said, this was, mid-July whenever this happened. So, you're already over the curve. You know what I mean? So stuff is kind of trying to slow down, and I'm trying to push it to grow, and was still able to push, a state record parsnip out of there, a state record green bean there, and a couple other state there. I can't remember off the top of my head. I had to go back and look. But yeah, they were grown in two of those 45-gallon containers and that one raised bed, and it wasn't the soil that done it, because that soil, crap soil, right? It was $1.25 a bag. It had to be the AgroThrive and the compost tea combination that I was doing, right? I mean, because and like I told you before, you could tell when that fruit and flower hit, because them beans went to flowering like crazy. I mean, they just put on flower after flower, and I was having to cull. Like there's videos out there of me culling like every morning, culling green beans off of there, because I'm like, man, 2 more today, like 3 more. Where did that one come from? Like anywhere. And so, yeah, I know what AgroThrive can do. I've seen it, and that's late season. That's trying to push stuff late season in soil that probably wasn't meant to grow much of anything. Let's just be honest, right? So,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that just goes to show, I mean, plants can grow in pretty much any environment if they just kind of get fed whatever they needed to at that time. So it's, like one of our biggest customers, who's the largest carrot grower in the world and largest organic vegetable grower in the US. They have a lot of land down there over here by us in the desert in California, Coachella Valley, Imperial Valley. And boy, do they need a lot of AgroThrive. I mean, they're pretty much growing in sand, but they are, growing, the off seasons veggies that are being supplied to everyone, just the kind of same as Salinas valleys. And
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, poor conditions. I mean, that's what we always kind of, when we do, we start working with farmers, and then they want to try it. We always say, give us your worst conditions, give us your worst soil and add the life to it and see what happens. And that's usually what gets them over.
Right.
So,
well, I didn't know that, but I did do it. Right. I gave it the worst I had, because it had never been, just straight out of the bag. Right. But what I thought was extraordinary was what it grew in the patches and in the garden that had been amended, that had been worked for, the past few years, right? And those was the things that I was like, man, this stuff is legit. This is good stuff. Because I could tell a difference. Now, I always, to me, if Travis is using it, it's good stuff because Travis is a straight shooter, and if it don't work,
yeah,
yes, yeah, and if it don't work, he ain't using it, and he definitely ain't gonna promote it if it don't work. And so, I already had that mindset of, yeah, okay, this is good stuff because of Travis, but it's different whenever you see it for yourself what it can do, and what it can do is phenomenal. And I'm happy to be using it. I cannot wait to get started this year. I've already got stuff growing, seedlings going and stuff. Some of it's getting ready to be put in the ground, so we're going to be hammering away on that. So I'm excited to see what all we can pull out this year. Is there anything that we might have missed that you might want to touch on about AgroThrive, and some of the more important things that we might not have touched on?
I mean, I think we covered most of the technical stuff. I guess just to kind of wrap it all up, to talk about, I could just kind of talk about the environmental impact of this technology, because I alluded to it a little bit earlier that this stuff creates, repurposes food waste, nutrient dense organic materials, and converts it into a fertilizer. Right now, we have heard a lot in our environment. Everyone's talking about CO2 emissions and greenhouse gases and all that kind of stuff. But methane is actually 30 times more toxic to our ozone layer than CO2 is. And now a lot of the government's starting to pay attention to what's causing all these methane emissions. And so they found that a lot of a big majority of the methane emissions come from landfills. And guess what's causing the methane emissions in those landfills?
Waste.
It's all food waste. It's all organic matter that's decomposing under anaerobic conditions, which turns into methane. And so there's not a lot of technologies out there that can actually handle that waste and convert it into something beneficial. You can compost that stuff, but you can imagine how long it would take for some of those things to naturally decompose, such as like an animal carcass. It requires a lot of time, labor, and space. And then there's like rendering, which is where they'll use high heat to separate fats from the solids and the oils, and they'll extract the fats and oils, and they use it for consumer products, etc. But still, that process, it's very energy intensive, and it still creates waste because they still can't use anything. So they can't use all of it. So a lot of it goes to the landfill. So the progressive digestion process is really the most sustainable technology that can handle that any organic waste and convert it into a sustainable biofertilizer. And that's how we have a project on our bulk side of the business with Costco Wholesale. They were looking at all these technologies for handling their food waste from their meat department. So those $5 rotisserie chickens and all their meat trim
Right.
from all the departments. So and salmon, all that kind of stuff. So we collect that waste in these big 1-ton bins that we bring back to our facility. We've created a new product out of that with Costco's meat waste, and we're selling it back to the growers who are supplying some of the produce to Costco, kind of in this closed loop project circle. So
Right.
We're really excited to just continue doing what we're doing, and kind of educating people about the technology, because it really, anywhere where there's humans, there's food waste. And you got to grow food in some vicinity of that. So it's kind of like the perfect bridge to not only keep food waste out of our landfills, but actually turn it into something that's good, that's gonna replenish our nutrient depleted soils from all the chemical agriculture the past 100 years. And so that's kind of the basic summary. Our mission is to improve the health of our soils, seas, and skies by safely repurposing nutrient dense organic waste into sustainable fertilizers. And so you got your soils. We're improving the health of our soils by applying AgroThrive. That's a given. We're improving the health of our seas by reducing the reliance on chemicals and pesticides used in agriculture. Because what happens is, when those plant roots, when you use the chemical fertilizer, whatever's not absorbed by those plant roots, that washes out of the soil, ends up in our underground aquifers, our waterways. And so that's how you have, those algae blooms like you'll see in Chesapeake Bay, Salton Sea. So that's all as a result of, just excess nutrients. And so, by using AgroThrive, we definitely do reduce the reliance on those chemicals and also pesticides through the microbes and the plant health aspect of things. And then, we improve the health of our seeds by taking that most difficult to handle, improve the health of our skies by taking the most difficult to handle food waste that would otherwise be creating those ozone destroying gases and converting into fertilizer. So far, we've diverted like 30 million pounds of food waste from going into landfills, and so I'm not really sure what the whatever carbon equivalent of that is, but
right, I'm sure it's a lot.
But yeah, so that's just kind of the story behind it, and that's what really gets me up in the morning every morning. So
right,
I'd share.
So Janet's wanting to know if your product's available in Canada.
Oh man, I've had a lot of those questions lately, and I unfortunately, it's not. Our founder was based, he's actually from Vancouver, BC. So, Canada, and I'm a Canadian citizen as well. And Canada's very, close to my heart. And I hope that we can expand that way soon. We're selling truckloads to some of the potato growers up there in Manitoba, but our retail containers are not available up there yet. So,
okay.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. So there you go. Hopefully soon. Well, what if you're on Amazon? Does that work like that?
Sorry, say that again.
I was like, what if they bought some on Amazon? Are y'all on Amazon?
Yeah, the products are available on Amazon. So yeah, that's a good place if you want to get, single individual products. And but we also have the products available on AgroThrive.com. We try to keep the prices, similar or better than Amazon. So I'd recommend checking that out before you purchase on Amazon. We also have other bundle deals and stuff like that on our site. But yeah, the product is available both Amazon and AgroThrive.com, and a couple other places as well. If local Ace Hardware stores, if you call your local Ace Hardware store, they might be able to get it from their warehouse because we're in all the warehouses for Ace Hardware. So I know we're not in every single Ace Hardware, so that's why I wanted to mention, call the store before you go in.
Right.
And then I know, HomeDepot.com sells some 5-gallon buckets, but we also added some buckets on our website as well. So, yeah, it's available AgroThrive.com, Amazon, HomeDepot.com, Ace Hardware stores, other independent garden centers kind of scattered throughout the states, more so in California. Yeah.
Awesome. Just one last question real quick, and I'll let you go. How hard is it for you guys to get this waste to like Costco, for instance? How hard is it for you guys to get is it easy, or do you guys, have to go through a lot of stuff in order to get that waste from these companies? Because you would think it would be easy if they're just put it out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with a company like Costco, it's not as easy as just knocking on the door and seeing if you could pick up their waste. But in general, I think the food industry, everyone's really having this problem. I think, from big retailers to restaurants to, any organization where there's food waste, they don't really know what to do with it. And California has SB 1383, where they've created a goal to divert food waste from landfills by 75% by the year 2025. So I think, so some cities are implementing some, composting type programs with food waste, but it's just not really, they haven't figured it out. And I know that the retailers are kind of struggling with it, but they're kind of left with not really much of a choice besides, getting a rendering company to come pick it up or take it to the landfills themselves, because I don't know what's going on with rendering companies, but it seems like they're not as available as they used to be.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the waste is pretty much everywhere.
Right.
I think there's no shortage of it.
Right. No, I know there's not. I mean, you start thinking about all the stores that, have their own butchers and their own, bakeries bakeries and other things that are inside of those stores, and then restaurants and stuff. I mean, let's face it, Americans are some of the most wasteful people on planet Earth, right? I mean, we look at that like, oh yeah, man, I want the hamburger, I want a half-pound hamburger, but I'm only going to eat half of it, Well, why didn't you buy a quarter pound? Well, because I wanted a half pounder, and then you toss out the other half of the half pounder because you didn't. Anyhow, I could go on and on about that, but we are some of the most wasteful people on this planet, and it can't help but to have an effect on it in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I mean, and I think what you guys are doing over there, that's awesome. How just I don't know if you're allowed to tell this, but how long does it take you to break something down your final product from start to finish?
Yeah, our process from start to finish takes 21 days.
That's
it goes through a mesophilic stage and then a thermophilic stage, and then we cut it off after 21 days. After temperatures have reached 159 for about a minimum of 3 days. Usually we wait 6, and so
that's cool.
It's pretty fast, and it's not very energy intensive. I mean, it's very energy efficient because we're not using any external heat to kill the pathogens. The microbes are doing it, and the way that we set up our vessels, we trap that heat. And any energy that we do use around the facility is displaced by our 2.5 acres of solar panels. So,
awesome.
So yeah,
behind you, is that some of the things that you break it down in?
So these are actually just our stainless steel storage tanks for final product.
Okay.
Yeah. So we always stainless steel is kind of the way to go with these.
Absolutely.
Products, because we always have to make sure everything's clean and disinfected afterwards, and
that's awesome. Well, I don't really have anything else to ask you. I am going to have to run through my list real quick of who all we have in the next coming weeks for everybody, and before I let you go, but it's been a great talk today. I really appreciate this. So next week, April 16th, we've got Travis Ginger. He's the world record holder for giant pumpkin. And we have Randall from Extreme Gardening going to be on with us. April 23rd, we got Jim Ford, another great giant pumpkin grower. He'll be on with us. April 30th, we got Chad New from Colorado Giants. He'll be on with us. May 8th, we have, which is a Wednesday, not a Tuesday. We have Tony from Kettle Kitchen going to be on with us. And then May 14th, we've got Christine from Gillum Farms. Be on with us. May 21st, we got Brad Bledsoe. He's a giant grower. He'll be on with us. May 28th, we got Ian, the urban gardener, going to be on. June 4th, Zach Hatton from Hatton's Homestead. June 11th, we've got Nick Kennedy, another giant grower out in California. He's actually the California state record holder out there. Then we got Adam Weber. He'll be on with us, another, again, giant grower on June 18th. June 25th, we got Jesus Loving Homestead. July 2nd, Milk and Honey Homestead. July 9th, Flourish Florida Farm. July 16th, Michelle from Big Valley Living. July 23rd, Where to Begin Homestead. July 30th, Emmett Andrews. August 6th, we've got Destin Noak from Texas Garden Guy. And then we're pretty much open from the 13th all the way through the 31st. So if anybody's watching, would like to come on, email me at babydrill2119@yahoo.com. And in the subject, put live stream. We'll get you a date set up, and we'll get you to come on, and we'll talk about whatever it is you're doing, whether it's homesteading, gardening, or giant growing. It's been a really, really good place to be, Marko, and a real pleasure having you come on here. I'm excited to see what this year holds out for us using AgroThrive again, and I really appreciate you, sparing time and joining us.
Hey, no, thank you for having me, and always a pleasure catching up with you. So. Yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank everybody else too.
Yes. And real quick, if there's any questions, I don't think there was because I was checking them as I was going here. I didn't see any, just that one. So, where can they check you guys out at besides just online? If somebody's got a question or anything, where can they reach out to you guys at?
Yeah, just agrothrive.com. That's agrothrive.com. Call us, email us. All our information is pretty central on that website. So, looking forward to chatting with you guys and answering any questions that you may have.
Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, just stay on here and I'll end the chat, and we'll wrap up on the other end of things. So, guys, we appreciate you watching. And as always, we'll see you next time right here in the hollers and hills of West Virginia. See y'all.